Yeah, and I'm sure there'll be another review or something. All right, bye. And cut. All right, awesome. It's just hold on. What's this? The fuck? The fuck? Again? No, it can't fucking be happening again. I changed the password to fucking everything. No.
I don't know what that was. Oh, and that's wrong. And cool. So, hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Specifically Devoid podcast. Welcome to a talk with a composer. With me today is composer, musician, and a wrestling fan, JD Spears. JD, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Micah. Which I thought I was going to be talking to Derek, but I guess it's fine.
I mean, he's a bad person. Like he's a bad person.
Okay.
I don't want to
I didn't like it
it.
much. Yeah.
Yeah.
I wasn't going to say anything, but yeah, I'm with you.
Thank God. Somebody sees it my way. So JD, you're a very talented composer, as some people might know on the channel. You remix themes, wrestling themes to orchestral or 8-bit, but you also work on video games. So how do you separate the styles creatively of doing those two things?
That's a good question. I think a lot of it has to do with when I'm doing like a cover of a wrestling theme, or really anything that I'm doing a cover of. Obviously, I'm approaching someone else's material in my own way, whereas most of the stuff I'm doing for games and film and TV and stuff, it's all original material. So it's kind of using a different part of the brain in that way, because I'm interpreting something rather than creating it from scratch, if that makes sense. So yeah, it's pretty easy to kind of separate them, just because they are pretty different approaches in that way.
Mm-hmm. So tell me where your musical journey started. Like, did it start as a kid? Did you find it as an adult?
Yeah, no, it very much started as a kid. I grew up in a small Texas town, and so what everybody listened to there was country music, and it would have been country music like in the late '80s, back then. And anyway, my parents kind of noticed that I was really good at carrying a tune and remembering lyrics and things like that at a pretty young age. And so they used to have these like little local variety shows and stuff like that, and I would go and perform at them as a child. And basically, it was basically just like a cute kind of gimmick of just like, here's this little 4-year-old kid, and he's singing about how his woman left him, and he's whatever, that kind of stuff. So but it actually led to some pretty crazy opportunities. I ended up living in a town called Branson, Missouri, which is kind of like country music Las Vegas. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but at one time, a lot of the kind of country music legends were building theaters and stuff there, and so I got to work with a lot of like living legends and stuff on their shows and stuff like that. So I kind of grew up around musicians, honestly, and sort of took a break from it when I got into like middle school, and then in high school I was in rock bands and stuff like that, and went to school for music for a little bit, and then yeah, just kind of just was, yeah, in and out of bands and my own personal like pop and rock projects and stuff like that. Um, and then yeah, I eventually kind of got my first laptop and started playing around with Logic Pro, which I bought with my laptop, which came preloaded with all these amazing orchestral sounds. And I was always a big fan of video game music growing up because I'm a big video game fan. So I was doing like orchestral versions of like some of my favorite video game stuff that nobody ever heard. I was just kind of learning and figuring out that I felt like I could actually do that kind of thing. And so, yeah, just in a roundabout way, it kind of led to where I'm at now, which was sort of subconsciously in that moment of playing around with that stuff, realizing that, hey, maybe I want to pursue something like this. This seems like something that sort of a perfect, like I was saying before we got on the air, like a Venn diagram of all the stuff I'm interested in. So yeah, so that's kind of a long story, but that's a nutshell.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's cool. Like, so you grew up like with all of these living legends. Did you ever
Yeah,
like have
yeah.
any? Were you just like as a kid? Do you think you were just like, oh, maybe I want to like be this? I want to be them when I grow up.
Yeah, I think early on that was the thing. And then of course when I don't know if you were ever in bands or anything like that, but when you're in high school and stuff like that or college, like a lot of times you fall into like you're getting in bands with your friends. You start bands and you think, well, we're gonna hit it big as rock stars and stuff like that. And that's, the mentality shifts over time as different opportunities, present themselves. But yeah, I think probably at one time that was something that I was thinking. But as at that age, it's all sort of a blur to me. I don't remember too much about it. Literally, I was anywhere from 3 to 7 years old. So it's just kind of like that span of time is, I have some very specific memories from that time, but not anything that's, I don't really know what my mentality was at that time. I was just being a kid. So
you don't think you have any
yeah.
like you picked up any tendencies from that age, from those ages, or do you think that you have?
Oh,
like,
sure. No. Yeah, no, I think growing up around musicians and learning from extremely talented musicians who were just players in these bands for these stars, and they're like the best of the best. And so absolutely, no, I definitely had influence from that time and that lives with me to today. But as far as like at that time, consciously thinking, I want to be a country music singer or I want to be in a band. Like I just kind of was, just sort of a normal kid. I didn't really know what was what a career was at that time. So
yeah, of course.
Yeah.
What rock bands inspired you, like in your like high school band days?
Oh man, I was, back in those days, I was into like pretty heavy stuff. I was a huge Metallica fan back then, and that was kind of like, I became pretty obsessed with them. Tried to learn everything they did on guitar, and then, as I got older and stuff like that, like I don't think there's anything better than like the Beatles. You know what I mean? I don't think that it gets better in terms of a band. I know it's a kind of a cop out. Pretty popular answer, I guess. But I mean, if it's true, it's true,
No, I have.
But yeah,
like
I would say those are.
me and my best friend Paul, who has been friend of the show, Paul. Like
Yeah,
we have like deep talks about the Beatles, like all the time. Like
yeah.
one of the songs that he did for a class was off of one of the anthology albums.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
Yeah,
really
they're
if you've ever
they're
listened to the
incredible.
anthology albums.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Mm.
There's such a wide range of uh, of material that they have for being together for a relatively short period of time, and
Mhm.
it's just kind of, I don't know. It's amazing that the same band that did their early stuff also did their later stuff. Like it,
Yeah, they're
I
almost
don't know.
like
It's
three
just they're
different
they're
bands.
very fascinated. Yeah, they're a very fascinating band for sure. So.
Mhm. Do you have a favorite Beatles album, or is it too hard to tell?
It's too hard to tell. I really liked. I think the first one I ever like truly fell in love with was Abbey Road,
Mm.
and so just front to back, I just think it's a fantastic listening experience, as many of their albums are. But that one stands out just because I think it was the first one that I really like fell in love with.
Oh, for sure. My favorite Beatles album is Rubber Soul. Like there's
Yeah.
it's close, but Rubber Soul and Revolver just like they used to trade, and then Rubber Soul just like kept getting ahead.
Yeah, no, I get it. Yeah, no, those are all amazing albums. You can't go wrong.
So speaking on like on doing stuff in high school, you were alive during late 80s and the 90s during the Attitude Era. Do you think that some of the music from that also has inspired you in your music today?
Well, I mean, yeah. So it's funny. I actually got into wrestling because my friend let me borrow this game, this Nintendo 64 game called it was what was it? Oh, Warzone, WWF Warzone is what it was called.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if you've ever played that game before, but it's probably not one of those that holds up all that well, like compared to, you know, like your No Mercy and stuff like that that I also love. But it was kind of my, I mean, obviously I was very aware of wrestling at that time because it was huge. It was very hot at that time. But I had never really given it a shot, and my buddy let me borrow this game, and it was just like you could just do the craziest stuff in this game, and I was like really intrigued by it. And then it kind of dawned on me, oh wait, I can watch people like really do this. And so I tuned into Raw, and I just haven't looked back since. You know, that was a great era to obviously it was the very like water cooler kind of thing, even though it wasn't a water cooler, it was more like at school, middle school. But you know, every Tuesday everybody was talking about, did you see what happened on Raw? It was like very much a cultural thing at that time that was fun to be a part of. And then yeah, I mean, I think anything that I get really into, the music tends to stand out in some way. And of course, at that time, that was the era of, you know, Jim Johnston just making some of the most memorable, you know, stuff that's, you know, certainly ever been made in wrestling. And so, yeah. And so I think that the music combined with how extremely popular it was and how extremely into it I was certainly had some influence on me. And I've done some themes for people and stuff like that. And so in that way, yeah, there was definitely an influence at an earlier age from that stuff.
Were you watching ECW at the time with the Sandman's theme?
No, it's funny. I got into ECW after ECW was gone, or at least after the original iteration of ECW was gone. So, but yes, I mean, you know, I got into it. It was funny. It was like, yeah, like I said, it was after its heyday. I actually didn't even know how to watch it when it was on, you know, because I mean, TV was different back then, and we didn't have like the internet in the way that we do now to be able to go, you know, just seek it out. But yeah, but my buddies, like, we got DVDs and stuff afterwards when we were kind of looking for something else to watch wrestling wise, and I think I borrowed some ECW DVDs from a friend, and yeah, that was a crazy time. That was a crazy time in wrestling for sure.
Yeah, I keep watching back like old ECW TV stuff just because
Yeah.
it's like WWF and WCW are like you can like they have like unique styles, but like WCW is like has like a revolving kind of style. It's kind of like how AEW is now, where like there's not an ECW style. It's a amalgamation of different styles.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. And that's actually what I really like about AEW now. I'd say that's like the promotion I'm into the most now. As you get older, you kind of have to pick your battles of like, I don't know if I have 10 hours a week or whatever to watch wrestling, like however much wrestling you could possibly, you know, watch in a week. I wish I did, but, so I've been really focusing on AEW lately, especially since crowds have come back. Like it's kind of re-sparked my interest in keeping up every week. I was keeping up peripherally before, during the pandemic. I found it was just kind of hard to watch. Like, I think live audiences are such a huge part of sort of the experience of watching a wrestling show. And so once they came back, I was like, okay, I'm gonna jump in, and it was a great time to jump back in because obviously AEW has sort of entered a new era in terms of being on another level.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, Derek and I famously now we went to the second ever AEW Dynamite show.
Oh, cool.
Yes, which you could see that review right over there in that iCard right above JD's head. But
yeah,
it's but yeah, I mean, it's no secret that huge into AEW. Like it's like the I'm slowly trying to understand WWE stuff.
Yeah.
There's so much content, and even Rampage, I kind of
Yeah.
don't have time to watch sometimes just because it's on so
Sure.
late.
Right. Yeah. No, I'm with you. Like, I feel like there's some incredibly talented people in WWE. It's just, I just feel like it's just kind of like, I just don't know that I'm the audience for it anymore. And that's totally fine. And I'm glad that AEW exists. And I was at All In. And I actually I did some music that was on that show, did some entrance music. So that was part of why I went. But it was, you know, with All In and the convention that they had alongside it and everything, you could just kind of tell that like change was in the air. Like it just felt like the beginning of something new. I mean, in this time that we were living in where this, you know, as far as obviously there are many amazing promotions, but as far as like on a nationally televised household name kind of level, I mean, we've had one promotion for 20 plus years or whatever. And so, you know, you just sort of felt that sort of coming to an end, and we didn't really know what that meant because there was no AEW like in any official capacity at that time. But it just sort of, it was cool to be a part of because you could definitely feel people looking forward to. It felt like you were a part of sort of a watershed moment in professional wrestling, which was cool.
Oh, for sure. All In was the first indie pay-per-view that I ever bought. Like it was the first indie show I ever like consciously remember. It's huge. Like it's I think it's a milestone. Whether AEW like goes on to success or does fail, which I hope it does not fail, but I think that it's monumental because it shows that there is an audience for non-WWE products on such a big scale. I think it's a really risky endeavor that's paid off so far, in my opinion.
Absolutely, it has. And just like anything, I mean, when it started, there were extremely good things about it, and then there were things that like I wasn't a giant fan of. But they've adjusted over time in a way that's like they clearly like know like if they do something that doesn't go over well, they just don't do it again. You know, like they learn from it, and they're very like conscious about that, and they're not afraid to like pivot if they feel they need to. And I think that's so important in terms of like, you know, learning what works creatively in any kind of endeavor. And I think they're really, really good at that.
For sure. Well, speaking of creative endeavors, because you did the score for Chivalry 2, so talk about the process of that and how recording and like editing that like was during the pandemic.
Oh, sure. Well, you know, like I said before, I'm a huge gamer, and so this is the kind of work I've been looking for and going after for a very long time. And I'd done some sort of smaller like mobile games and stuff like that in the past, but this is my first proper like, you know, big game that I've ever worked on. And so it was an incredible learning experience, and I'm extremely grateful to have been and to continue to be a part of it as we release more content for it and everything. But you know, yeah, I mean, it was interesting because I didn't know when we started this project if we were going to be using a live orchestra for anything. And obviously I wanted to, but those types of things, like it's a lot to get them together. It's very expensive and that kind of thing. And once the pandemic hit, I thought, okay, well, we're definitely not doing that. Like, you know what I mean? Like, we're definitely obviously not going to get a bunch of people in a room, even if we could. And so, yeah, and eventually, like, you know, I think the game got delayed a little bit, which kind of bought us a little bit more time. The score was, as far as the launch version of the game was largely done. But we had a little bit more time, and some of the Central European orchestras were, like they were kind of able to get back to normal a little quicker than we were here in the States. And so they were recording again. And so I worked with this company called Budapest Scoring, and we recorded some key music with them in 2 different sessions in 2 different studios in Budapest. And I attended remotely. I worked with great support team with it and everything. And I mean, it was an incredible experience. It was my first time that anything I've ever written was played by a 60-piece orchestra. So it was an incredible experience. Obviously, I think being in the room would have been a whole nother level, but instead of staring at a screen. But yeah, I mean, as far as during the pandemic, I worked with a lot of other like soloists and musicians that are all capable of recording themselves remotely. So other than the orchestra part of it, there probably wasn't a whole lot of, a difference as far as my approach, just because composers were kind of all locked in our caves anyway, not talking to anybody. So yeah, but it was quite an experience, and I can't wait to get back to doing more of that.
So like obviously like it was more challenging, but do you think that like your creative process during the pandemic was sparked because you had to spend so much more time alone? Because I felt like there was a dip, and then there was like a certain peak, sort of like maybe around like May or June of 2020.
Yeah, like I said, it's interesting because so much of this kind of work, like it's just me. Like I don't have like a team of people that I work with or anything. So a lot of it is very isolating anyway. And so again, there wasn't a huge difference. I mean, there was a time early on when like when it was really starting to get really bad, like right at first, and everything was shutting down and locking down, that my wife and myself, and at the time our 2 kids, found ourselves, we were visiting family, my in-laws, and we found ourselves like at their house and didn't feel comfortable leaving because we didn't know. I mean, nobody knew what was going on. Nobody knew, it was getting really bad. And so we kind of quarantined there. And so I did kind of have like a temporary setup in their spare bedroom, to kind of hit some deadlines that wouldn't have got hit otherwise. And so I kind of had to strip down my approach in some ways just to get stuff done. It totally turned out great. But so in that way, yeah, I mean, you can be challenged to sort of think outside the box and, do more with less, I guess. But yeah, largely, thankfully, because I know so many people were impacted in such incredible ways. So many industries were impacted in so many negative ways by all of this, that I'm very thankful that I didn't have to necessarily deal with the brunt of it, because I know a lot of people did.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
Yeah.
So switching gears, I should have done this question before, but
Sure.
It's okay because I hacked, so I can do it. I can do what I want. But what was your reaction when Chris
There are
Jericho?
no rules.
Yeah, that's so true. That's so true. So what was your reaction when Chris Jericho shared your work of your retelling of his Judas theme?
Oh man, that was so cool. Yeah, it's funny. I didn't actually even know about it. I don't even think, I don't use Facebook as like I use other social platforms, and that's where he shared it. And I don't even think I liked his page on Facebook. I follow him on Twitter and Instagram and everything else. But I just happened to be looking at, I noticed that like the view count on my video was like going up a lot faster than it had been. And then I noticed someone in the comments, pointed out like, hey, Chris Jericho shared this on his Facebook and like linked to it. And so that's where I first saw it. I was like, oh, this is so cool. And so I have no idea, like, if I had tagged him in tweets and stuff like that about it. I don't really know like where he heard it or how he heard it, but it was really cool for sure. And it, was very good of him to share it, because obviously that helps me a lot. So, and it's different because, it's not only his theme as a wrestler, but it's also like his song that he wrote and performed. So it's a little bit, because I've had wrestlers tweet things before, and it's been, which is always just incredible. But yeah, it's a little bit different when it's also like the person who actually made the song to begin with.
Yeah, so it's kind of like when Downstraight retweeted you about like, we can't wait to hear more, when you just teased the Cody final boss.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It never gets old. That's really, really, really cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's cool. So the way that I usually think about like wrestling themes is like they're kind of character pieces, like and like in like that minute and a half to 3 minutes, it like encapsulates who that character is. Is that kind of like the way that you see them too, or do you think of them more grandiose?
No, I think you got it right there. Yeah, I mean, I think it's a unique prospect as a musician, because you have to basically like sum up musically who this person is, and
Mhm.
like you said, the entrance might play for three, but it's probably going to play for like a minute, you know, as they walk to the ring. Like it's never that long. And so yeah, it's a different challenge than writing music for a film or a game, where you generally have, I mean, not always, but in many instances, you have time to tell more of a story musically, and kind of get to the point a little bit more slowly. Whereas you got to like right off the bat, like have a musical identity for this person from the first note when you're making entrance music. So, yeah, but I think you summed it up well. That's how I would sum it up.
Yeah. So do you just like kind of pick and choose the like which wrestlers you'll do a theme for like for an amount of time, or do you like have a list of like wrestlers you want to? Because I see that like it ranges from like WWE, AEW, the Indies. Like there's Kenny Omega's old theme. There's
Yeah,
the All In theme.
yeah, yeah. I mean, at that time, when I did the Kenny Omega one was the first one I ever did, and when he tweeted about it, I thought, because I was just doing, I'm just, and honestly, still, when I do these, I'm just doing them for fun. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like, it's just, I like wrestling, and I feel like it's something unique that other people aren't doing. So it is all just for fun. But when he tweeted about it, I thought, well, maybe there's like an audience for this, because people seem to really like it. And so maybe I'll do more. And so that was, because it was just going to be that one. It was just an idea I had or whatever. And during that time is when, New Japan was really hot with Kenny there. Ring of Honor was hot because the Bucks and everybody were still there. And then All In was kind of sort of that first time it all sort of came together. So that time, during that time, I was sort of seeking out. I still did a fair amount of WWE themes, but I was doing more New Japan and Ring of Honor and stuff like that, because that was kind of what I was really into at the time. Now it's just more of I have sort of a list that I'm working my way through, not as quickly as I hoped I would initially, but yeah, I do have a list of wrestlers that I want to get to. And the list grows because new wrestlers debut, and it seems like you could never run out of them, really. And there are still some really big ones that I haven't done yet. So, I'm trying to make sure I save some big ones for down the road for when I'm able to get back to them as well.
Mm-hmm. Is there like a video or like a wrestler's theme that you that blew up that you just did not expect? You were just like, oh, this one's okay, and then like it just blew up because you just found out that everyone really liked it.
Yeah, weirdly, and this was during that first batch of them that I did, the Kevin Owens one. I mean, like, I was happy with it, but I just like, I came off of being a couple of other ones that I feel like are more popular themes than his.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I've gotten, as far as single day, I got more views on that video than I have on any, including like the Jericho one, like I have any of them. And so I don't know why people, it connected with people, but that happens a lot, I think, as a musician, is that, stuff that you might not anticipate, the stuff that you're like working on and you're like, people are going to love this. This is going to be huge. It usually isn't. And then like the stuff that you're like, oh, it's just, hey, I'm happy with this. And, I got it done. Great. Put it out there. And then somehow that's the stuff that people really latch onto. So it's weird how that works.
Yeah, you never know what your audience is really gonna like, which is a challenge,
right, yeah.
When you're trying to make content like we do.
Oh yeah. No, it's just like, sometimes it's like the process of elimination, right? You just like figure out everything that doesn't work so that you can hone in. You just try all the stuff that doesn't work, and then you can hone in on what might work. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Well, JD, I got some rapid fire questions for you to close us out.
Oh boy, I'm bad at this. All right.
Okay. First of all, Who would win in your dream match of your favorite wrestler growing up versus your favorite current wrestler?
Oh, okay. Well, as far as favorite current wrestler, it's hard because I have so many that I love. This is not a rapid fire answer. I'm so sorry. Yeah, I'm just gonna pick one of my favorite wrestlers, and I'm gonna say my favorite wrestler growing up was The Rock. There's no question. And I'm going to put him against. I'm gonna put him against. Shoot, now I gotta pick one. I'm gonna put him against Bryan Danielson because right now he's like top frame, like, he's up there for me, and he has been for a long time. I loved him in WWE days, but now I'm just really excited about him. It was between him and Kenny for anybody who's interested. But yeah, Bryan Danielson versus The Rock. That's an interesting match, and I think Bryan Danielson would definitely win that match. I think The Rock would. Yeah, I think The Rock would he would I don't know. It would be fun to hear The Rock talk about Bryan Danielson, like in promos and stuff. That would be awesome. But yeah, as far as the match, Bryan Danielson is vicious. He's a killer. I think he would I think he would beat him.
Oh, for sure. What were your thoughts on the New York show about Daniel Bryan versus Kenny Omega?
I think it's the best televised United States wrestling match that I can remember. I mean, I don't know of, and part of it is just the moment. You know what I mean? Part of it is the moment that it took place in, but I think part of it is just that's my favorite style of match. And I think that I've loved that style of wrestling for so long, and it's not the style that WWE does. And so seeing it on such a gigantic stage in front of such a large audience with that kind of production on a national, on a major cable network, is not something I thought I would see in my lifetime, not even, 5 years ago. So it was just really cool. So I think, I think it's the best television match that I've ever seen. And that's not to say that it's not one of the best matches I've ever seen, period. But I think part of that has to do with the moment it took place in and sort of the implications it has for the future. And then I'm also you want it to be so good when you're watching it, and you're just you want them to do really well because you love both of those guys and you want them to show the world what they can do. And I think they delivered on that. So yeah, and they also left so much on the table for what they can do later. They didn't do everything that they're capable of. You know what I mean? The rematch is going to be incredible.
Oh, absolutely.
So, what about you? What did you think about it?
I saw it 2 days later, just because of time.
Okay.
So I avoided it. In a way, I think it was a good and bad match for that to be Danielson's first match in AEW, just because you want to see him get a win, but at the same time, I completely understand the draw. I appreciate the draw from a storyline perspective, but it would have been nice for him to face maybe the Nick Jackson match was first, and a couple weeks later it was the Kenny match.
Oh, I see what you mean. Mm-hmm.
As if you're building up to Kenny, because when you start,
I can totally see that.
Is there anywhere to go past the champion? Because the champion's supposed to be the number one guy in the promotion.
Yeah. I think a lot of people were surprised that they went right to that match. I was. Mm-hmm. I thought that they were going to build to it, but I also think that they wanted a big, the biggest match they could do for that biggest audience they ever had. And so I think that's probably what it boiled down to. But yeah, the thing I like about the draw too is that it's something that they established. Was it the first episode of Dynamite that they did a time limit draw, or was it was it the one you guys were at?
It was Fyter Fest. It was
was it? Okay, so it was their early pay-per-views. Yeah. But they established it right out of the gate. This is a thing that we have in our pocket, but then they don't really ever use it. And I just think that having time limits in a match and having that in your back pocket to use in key situations like this, where it really doesn't make sense for either of these guys to lose. I thought it was really cool. And I also like that at the end, they were still nobody had an advantage by the end. They were still like really evenly matched by the end. Like, so it was just like nothing was decided at all. It's not like someone was close to winning or anything. So it was just I think they're telling a cool story with it. It'll be interesting to see where they go with you know, Kenny and Danielson now, because I think Kenny and Hangman are gonna probably be next for the championship. So, but I kind of trust them at this point. You know what I mean? Like, sometimes they'll do stuff I'm like, that's not really what I would have done. But a lot of times then it ends up paying off in a really cool way that I never would have thought of. So I'm kind of, right now they have my trust. So I'm just going to let them do their thing.
What should be the main event of a New Japan and AEW Super Show?
Okay. All right. I'm going to say it should be again, Bryan Danielson versus Okada is what I would do. I think that would be really cool. I mean, there are so many great. I mean, there would be so many options that would be incredible matches. But yeah, I'd really like to see that match, because obviously Kenny's already worked all those guys. So,
right.
But yeah, you know, I don't know. I also want to see Bryan Danielson in the G1. I think that would be cool.
I mean, as of recording tonight, it's Danielson versus Suzuki. So we might get to see that.
I know, can't wait. Yeah, I know, that's just so crazy that match is just randomly happening. It's gonna be
on
be good,
YouTube, nonetheless.
Yeah, I know. It's a weird night in pro wrestling. I feel like with all the SmackDown stuff
night.
and everything.
It's a different night, I would say.
Yeah.
Once AEW moves to TBS, I hope they just stick with Wednesdays. I hope they don't get moved around.
Yeah. I hope so too.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I'm not good at rapid fire questions. I like give you 5-minute answers for everything.
Nah, I love it. All right, Lucky Wild versus Street Fighter 2.
You say Lucky and Wild, like the shoot,
Lucky
like the
Wild versus
the light gun game.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. God, this is going to be extremely controversial. It is not a better game, but I'm going to pick Lucky and Wild, because Lucky and Wild is a game that was in the arcade that I grew up, and it was just always the one I would play all the time. And I recently randomly found it with my friend in this like arcade in Nashville that's like in this old warehouse, and they just you pay like $10 and you can play all day, and it's just like a labyrinth of all these old machines, and it was just in the corner over there, like barely working. And I was like, oh my God, I haven't thought about this game in so long. But yeah, obviously Street Fighter 2 is the better game, but I'm terrible at fighting games. So if I'm going to pick one to play, it would be Lucky and Wild.
Don't worry, I did a deep dive on your Twitter before our interview.
I didn't think Lucky and Wild would come up randomly, so I assumed it's not one that people think of. It's not one that anyone would ever think to pit against Street Fighter 2 in any other situations.
I don't know. I mean, like maybe Lucky and Wild is an upcoming classic arcade game.
It's prime for a gritty reboot. That's what I think.
It's true. Who do you think would star in the Lucky and Wild movie?
Oh my gosh, I don't know, because it's so derivative of like Starsky and Hutch and all that stuff already. But yeah. So
Owen Wilson.
Yeah, I don't know. It's one of those things that like yeah. Let's just put them back in it. We'll just make the same movie again and just call it Lucky and Wild. It's basically what it is. There's this one guy in Lucky and Wild. One of the villains' name is Big Cigar, and I thought that's like one of the greatest names for a villain ever. There's a big guy with a cigar, and his name is Big Cigar. That's amazing.
Isn't that the bad guy from Space Jam though? Big Cigar.
Big Cigar, yeah. Basically, he looks the same. That's what I mean. They just named him literally what the two things they thought. Yeah. The Monstars.
Sure.
That's all I remember from that.
What were your thoughts on those entrances on that Dynamite, the Hangman Dark Order one and the Elite Space Jam entrance?
Oh man, I thought the Hangman Dark Order one was the greatest entrance they ever did. I thought it was awesome because I like his music a lot. It's interesting. I talked to him at because I did music at All In. He worked Joey Janela.
Yeah,
and I did the entrance music for Joey Janela at All In, and so I talked to Hangman about just how much I loved his music. And it's weird. He was telling me like it's just he just found like I guess he was trying to get something that was like the Ecstasy of Gold, which is kind of what the track is sort of kind of going for. But he ended up finding this track on one of these like music library websites. It's just a track that he just licensed, like it wasn't made for him, but he used it. And now AEW has licensed it in like an official capacity, I think. But I just think it's such a cool track. And I don't know who did. I don't know if Mikey Ruckus did the sort of remix of it that they used for that extended version that they used for the entrance or not, but whoever did, I mean, it was incredible, and I thought it was really well done, and I thought the I don't know, the video elements along with the entrance was really cool, and the Space Jam one was like just them doing what they do best, I think. So
yeah. Do you regularly watch BTE?
I used to be a religious BTE watcher. It's been one of those things that like I kind of got back into it a little bit once I got back into watching Dynamite. But I'm actually probably only a couple episodes behind, but yeah, there was a long stretch of time throughout the pandemic where I didn't watch it though.
Yeah, I feel like once AEW started, I stopped having interest.
I was in it once though. I am a beat.
You were in. Technically, Derek and I are also in BT because you can see us, not very clearly.
You're still there.
I'm still here.
Yeah, I would say we're probably on the same level then. Like it's more of a I'm technically in BTE. It was at the All In weekend when I performed in a band with the Young Bucks' dad at one of the StarCast events, and so they just had footage from that because they all got up on stage and sang with us. And so I'm in it because I'm just there, but playing the guitar.
I wish I was at All In. Like while I was watching it, I was like, I want to be there. Because I wanted to see Okada live. Oh
yeah, yes, that was something I wanted to see too. Because especially at that time, you know, except for when Ring of Honor sort of did their New Japan Invasion shows or whatever, where they'd bring some of the guys over, it usually wasn't like Okada. You know what I mean? So it's like Okada wrestling a match in the States was just and even Ibushi, like that was the first time I saw him live too. But yeah, it was an amazing event. I'm definitely thankful that I was there.
Ibushi is, in my opinion, the best wrestler in the world. Like he's just next level.
Yeah. I mean, gosh, back to your New Japan question about a New Japan AEW show. It's hard. I mean, Ibushi versus really anybody would be a dream match, I feel like. So there's so many people on AEW I'd like to see, including Bryan Danielson. That would be cool. Yeah, just to have them. Exactly. Yeah, I mean, because they have so much left to tell in their story. You know what I mean? And I feel like they could really do it there. But I'm trying to think. Even like Ibushi versus like Darby Allin. Like I feel like there are just so many intriguing, interesting pairings you could do that would be like very unique matches. I feel like, you know what I mean? So
yeah, I mean, I wanted to see like Darby Allin and like Minoru Suzuki, or like Darby Allin and like Takagi, or like somebody who's like his kind of like skinniness.
Yeah. But also like think about like sort of more of a mismatch. Like think of like Darby Allin versus Ishii. I feel like that would be such a crazy. They could do like Ishii could do stuff with him that he's not used to being able to do, and I feel like I don't know. I just feel like Ishii again. He's another one. New Japan has so many of those guys that's like really whoever whoever they're working with, it's probably going to be pretty great. So
Absolutely.
he's definitely
Jeff
one
Cobb.
of them.
Jeff Cobb was the next one that popped in my mind.
Jeff Cobb's great. Yeah, Jeff Cobb's great. I love Jeff Cobb.
Have you been following the G1 this year?
This is the first year since probably the first year in like 5 years that I haven't been following it, because I was kind of a completionist these last 5 years or so, where I'd watch every single match. But this year I just haven't had time to, like, I'm so far behind. I started and then I just fell so far behind, and it's been hard. I feel a little bit overwhelmed now because I'm like, 7 or 8 shows behind or whatever. So again, that's quite a time investment, but I usually make time for it. But this year it's been a weird year. It's been a weird year for them too, with the injury with Naito and everything. So but I hear there's still, you're keeping up with it?
I've been trying to. It's on at weird times, It's on so early in the morning.
Yeah. Oh, I would always watch it like whenever I could that day. I would never watch it live. But yeah, it's definitely a really fun watch but I feel like you need to watch the whole thing if you can, because they're really good at telling like nuanced stories throughout the tournament. And so if you miss a show, it's kind of like you might, not that you have to watch every show, but I feel like it's just a better experience if you do.
Mm-hmm. For sure. And the last question, what are your thoughts on Sunny D?
Sunny D, like the drink?
Like the drink.
Oh yeah. No, I love it, but it's got to be Sunny D California style. You know what I'm talking about? Because they had Sunny D, which was, it tasted fine, but then they had this thing called Sunny D California style, and I don't know what the difference is other than it tastes incredible. And that's what we would always get growing up. And my thoughts are, I'm in favor of Sunny D. I'm pro Sunny D.
All right, that's 5-2. I can't believe people like this.
Or you hate it? Have you had California style?
I have not, because I don't live in California. I've never been to California. But
well, neither have I. It was just like it's kind of like, Cool Ranch Dorito. It's just like a flavor. They called it California
I've never
style.
tried it. No, we had a whole
and they may not
debate
have
on
it
the show.
anymore. It may be one of those things from my childhood that no longer exists. But like they had it then, and I loved it. But I was never like, and I don't know if you can even score it differently or whatever. Maybe put like a draw in there, because regular Sunny D I can take or leave. Like I don't have a strong opinion about it. California style specifically, because it exists, I have to like say I'm for Sunny D. But like, if that didn't exist, I don't know that I would, have a very strong opinion on it.
You heard it himself. There's a draw in there.
That's right. We have stats, and you stick to them, and it's great.
It's just bad. Like, I just don't like it. We had a whole trial about it. Like, that's how much it was. And like,
yeah,
there's a mistrial. It was a whole thing. The judging system is rigged. I should have won. I'll take the mistrial. I'll take the mistrial though. We're gonna do it soon. I promise. It's been over a year since we've done that.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I feel like you can put me strongly in the draw category, because you take Sunny, California style out of the equation, and might as well just get some orange juice.
You can visibly see me on the drink Sunny D during the trial, because like I'm just like, I have had Sunny D recently. It's right now, and I just shoot gag because I can't. It just tastes so bad.
Yeah. And to be fair, honestly, I have not had any kind of Sunny D since I was a child, and so sometimes I taste things from my childhood, and I'm like, why did I think that was good? Right. So I don't know that, it might be one of those things where I need to drink it as an adult and to form a good opinion on it.
You get the 6-pack, it should be like a family thing, and then like you either keep the other 2 or you throw them away.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I'll have to do that. I'm sure that there's a grocery store literally like across the street from my studio, and it has I'm sure they have Sunny D there if they have it anywhere. So that looks like a Sunny D.
Every dollar store you can buy Sunny D for $1. You shouldn't be able to buy juice for $1.
Yeah, I guess that's a good point.
In saying
Yeah,
that,
that's
trashing
dark.
Sunny
But
D, improving my reputation as being not toxic. Thank you, JD, so much for talking with me. Please plug away. Tell all these people where they can find you.
sure, absolutely. You can find me on Twitter. It's just at Spears Sounds. It's my last name that you see up there, with the word sounds, Sounds at the end. At Spears Sounds on Twitter. Spears Sounds on Facebook and on Instagram as well. And I'm usually pretty good about kind of keeping people posted on what I'm up to on those pages. Also, my YouTube channel is just just search JD Spears on YouTube and you'll find it. But it's youtube.com/JD Spears. And yeah, I kind of posted a newer batch of pro wrestling covers over there. And then I'm going to be getting back to those as well whenever I can free up some time from the main gigs. So, but yeah, and then yeah, and Chivalry too. If you're a gamer, and you like competitive game, or even if you don't, like I'm terrible at competitive games, and I think this game is incredible. Very approachable. Think Call of Duty multiplayer, but instead of guns, you're in a medieval setting with broadswords and shields, and it's a chaotic, great time, and it's just a lot of fun. So if you like it, it's available on all platforms pretty much. I played mine on PlayStation, but you can get it on Xbox or PC. It's called Chivalry 2, and adding more content all the time to it, and you can hear my music in that as well.
Cool. Thank you so much. And as always, I've been me, you've been you, and we're out of here.